Hi everybody, I'm Mahin and this is your daily Bellydance Quickie, and we have another special guest today. We are talking to Jeremiah Soto, the man behind the music of Solace. And so I'm here in Sacramento area and along the California tour, and so I'm one of many people that I've been able to chat with here. So Jeremiah, everyone knows you for your music, that's very popular in the tribal fusion community especially. So when you started to seriously record music, was the Bellydance community, was that your aim there, or what were you aiming, what was your thought process?
Well, I started writing music like in 1985, but it wasn't towards belly dancing music. I actually was in a goth band with a good friend of mine back for like from 87 through 89 and maybe even 1990. And then we broke off and put together another band that was more medieval, Middle Eastern sounding, kind of classical sounding as well too. So we were kind of like a Dead Can Dance sounding band back then. So I was always interested in Middle Eastern percussion, and when Eventide broke up, I went into Middle East and I just dove right into it. And my idea of writing Middle Eastern music, I don't know, I guess I was focusing on belly dance because I wanted to create the orchestral pieces, the old classical orchestral pieces, but it didn't turn out that way. So, but it was popular sort of to the cabaret Egyptian market a little bit. Got a lot of complaints that it was slow, it was too slow. But the tribal community soon came in around that time, around 1995, 1996, and they kind of latched onto it and liked the fact that it was slow and moderate tempo because it was simpler to do ATS to it So then, since then, I still went after that sound, but it didn't. But it developed more with a lot of changes, and I'm just a musician that likes change in my music. So I think a lot of people had a hard time in the beginning focusing on like what I was trying to do and paint stories, pictures with the music. So yeah, I did start off as going into belly dance, but then it turned more into tribal fusion ATS dancers really latched onto it.
Yeah. So when you're writing these pieces, do they come out fully formed for you, or are these things that you go back and revise as you're working on?
They come with a percussion idea or a melody idea, and I do a ton of revisions. I have to. There'll be times where I can write a song in 15 minutes. There'll be times where it takes me 3 months, and I'll go back and revise. And sometimes I'll have snippets. And the idea that I always try to have a theme before I make a record. I always try to have an idea of what I want to pursue with what I'm trying to say with
Overall,
the music.
for the CD?
Yeah. So there has to be a theme. I can't work with just put a song here and there. I have to have an idea, I have to have a story. So that helps me to focus.
That's interesting for us is when we look at the CD as a whole, to kind of catch on what the theme is. It's nice to play that game.
Yeah, and the cover always is a picture of what the album is like. So and I get a lot of people who are like, God, that's a really intense album cover. Well, yeah, because it needs to tell people what you're buying, So even have some people who used to wholesale would always be bothered. God, your album covers are dark. They're really hard to sell, And I'm like, I have to make it like this. I can't do it any other way. I can't put a twirling belly dancer on it because the music's a little heavy and it just doesn't fit the visual.
But in these days, though, when people do downloads, I imagine that's not as much of a problem now. People aren't buying the CD off of a shelf, is it?
Yeah, that's true. But I still put the thought and the effort in the album cover just as much as I do the music, because it's all important to me. And
yes,
and me, and I'm from the vinyl age, and the whole getting that big old vinyl with all the artwork on it and just studying it, and that's just amazing.
A lot of people miss that. A lot of people miss that. Yeah. So when you're making music, and you definitely now have the belly dance audience in mind, what is it that you're putting into the music with the dancers in mind, and what are you hoping that they get out of it? Like, what kind of things are you looking to kind of build that cohesion with the dancer and that invites her to dance?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because, and I just thought about this now when we were discussing like possible questions. I write for myself first, and so I don't really have I don't really think about, okay, people are gonna love this because they're gonna be able to belly dance. I don't really think that. It's more about the story. It's more about the experience that comes from my psyche that goes into the song.
Mm-hmm.
But and as far as like a dancers, I mean, my music tends to be really heavy and deep, and I've seen dancers dance happily to a very devastatingly powerful sad song, and I'm sitting here going, no, that's the wrong idea. You got it all wrong. So sometimes it's disappointing, because it's like that's not what the song, and you can tell the song is very powerful, very sad, but they're doing something completely opposite of what I think that they could do to it. But so in a way, yeah, I have an idea, but I can't take away a person's individuality from what they take from the song. So that's why a lot of times I try not to explain what the song's about.
That's really interesting, and I'm looking at I'm listening to this from a dancer's point of view, and I mean myself, I dance more classical and cabaret style. So my interactions with songs, especially when it comes to classic songs, is one of being, you have to be informed about what the song is about, especially because even if you're dancing in an instrumental version, this is a song that has lyrics that are oftentimes known by in a Middle Eastern audience, even if they're not being sung, and therefore the song has a tone and it has a theme, and it is your duty to represent that. But when something is, so I guess I kind of look at this more like, when you have classical music, it's more the subject of it. If you were going to compare it, say, to art, like to visual art, that the subject is very apparent, whereas when you don't have a storyline or vocals, and lyrics and things like that, it's more like abstract art. It's kind of what you take from it, and so it's interesting that you have something and you definitely had a thought process behind putting it out, and then someone else comes to it, and I guess it could be that is their genuine interpretation of what it comes to, or it could be just not engaging with the music enough to think about anything beyond the beat background.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting, and I guess they're all artistic choices though too. I mean, someone could validly say that it was contrast.
Yeah. Well, I've seen dancers who know my music very well and don't choreograph anything to it, and at a hafla they'll go up there and perform to it, and it's amazing. Yeah. It's because they know the music, and it makes them feel a certain way, so they take the parts of the music that they feel the most in and just put it into their dance. That's powerful right there.
Yeah, that's about being open to that moment.
Yeah.
You have to be open personally, and you have to be open to what's coming in, and that's it. I think that's one of the things that I love about live music and improvisation is that it's this thing that's just alchemical kind of reaction that just is a one-time thing, and if anyone doesn't do their part, it just doesn't happen. And I remember that being something that was not even lost on me as a kid, going to the ballet with a live orchestra. I loved that magic of everything being live, and it's wonderful to be part of as well.
Yeah.
From both ends. So, but a lot of these dancers are dancing to your music recorded, and so they're coming at this sometimes with a lot of hours of practice behind it. So sometimes it gets hard as a dancer to remain open to what the music has after many, many hours of rehearsing to something.
Yeah, you kind of lose. You get into the choreography and not like what the meaning is, because you're like trying to make it fit within the beat pattern, and you get mathematical instead of passionate. You lose that,
Exactly, and that's something that we always have to, as choreographers, we always have to step back and try and reconnect with something, and that's part of the process.
Yeah, the process.
So your music is very eclectic. You know, you can, like you said, you were shared with us. You have a background in more classical Middle Eastern things, but your music has a much more diverse sound. So what are your
My dog,
we
my dog
have
is
a
like,
dog in the room
yeah.
with us. I imagine you see
Yeah.
this
He's
dog
cool,
wander here. He is going
He's
to
part
come and
of the-
say hello on
he's
the
part of
camera.
the interview.
All right, doggy's
What do you
part of
think
the
about my
interview.
music, Buckeye? You just wag your tail and nod.
Yeah.
Good boy.
We have another special guest. So as far as the eclectic nature of your music, what are some of the influences that you have, and what are your inspirations as far as music?
Oddly enough, I don't listen to any Middle Eastern music. Oddly enough, I don't listen to it at all. I kind of moved beyond that, and I listened to it in the very beginning a lot, and just being a musician. I mean, I listened to a lot of weird stuff when I was growing up. I listened to Depeche Mode, The Cure, a lot of industrial bands from back in the early '80s, and like really weird stuff. I can't even remember half of the names, and so I tend to evolve myself musically, and so I did the Middle Eastern thing. Time to move on, move on to other things. So I'm into electronic music. I started out as a electronic artist, and I'm back into it. And some of my influences now are one particular DJ. His name is Burial, and he does a lot of two-step dark dub stuff. God, who else do I like? Radiohead. I still like The Cure. I still like Depeche Mode. I've been listening to a lot of like dark dub and a lot of two-step stuff. I know that two-step's not around that much anymore, but I still like some of it. And I'm just into things that have a quality to them that I can gravitate to, and that shows in my music. Like with the Rona Ghost, you can hear the electronic influence in there. You can hear some of the dark dub in there. You can hear a lot of it, but there's still that essence of world influence in it. And so I tend to like have that bleed through my process as I'm listening to these bands on iTunes or whatever, and that kind of bleeds into like what I'm doing musically for Solace.
I think that art, no matter what kind of performance or visual art is. I mean, it's never a purely original idea. It's your original take on all of the things you bring in. So yeah, it's interesting to know what's behind, what's coming in for you that kind of feeds what's going out. So what is in the future? Like, where do you see your music kind of going? Like, what areas do you want to explore?
Probably more electronic. It's probably going to be electronic for a long time, I think, because there's a lot of interesting things happening in that world, and I want to explore them. I haven't explored them yet, and I want to explore it. But right now I'm wanting to actually work with other musicians, and I have opportunities that I can't really talk about yet because they're not set.
Sure.
But I want to work with other musicians on projects and work together. So that's in the future. And then Ruin of Ghost was a very consuming record. And I don't know if I'm going to be working on anything Solace for a while. I do have some music that I might release that was written around the Ruin of Ghost time. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. You know what I mean?
It didn't fit thematically with
the
CD.
It didn't fit with the CD, but there's still some good songs in there. I just need to see how I'm going to approach that if I approach it. So no guarantee. Okay.
But stay tuned.
No guarantee. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm taking a step back actually a little bit because that record was emotionally draining and mentally draining because there was a lot that went into it. There was a lot of revising. Let's go back to the revising part.
Yeah.
I think I revised. I think I sat on a song for a year and revised it probably 20 times. And I even rewrote it like 3 times. and it's not even quite right, but it was good enough to be put on the album.
I think that there never is perfection, and I think that even with choreography, it's like I don't think I've ever had a choreography where I've been like, this is exactly it. I mean, there's always something I could tinker with, but you have to come to a point where it's time to say, okay, the world gets to see this now.
It's never good. You always think of it. It's never good enough. It's never good, and I think that's good to have.
Oh, yes.
But you have to work yourself to the point where like, okay, I can't work on this anymore. It has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't ever get to that point, you'll never get anything done.
No.
You have to settle on things.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that settling is a low quality.
No.
You have to, when it says the thing that you want it to say, and that's when it's time to share it.
Yeah.
And or sometimes it's a deadline,
Sometimes it's a deadline, yes.
For choreography, a lot of times it's a deadline.
Yeah. Well, like with Ruin a Ghost, I started working on that in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and after Tribal Fest 2014, that's when I decided, you know what, it's going to be 20 years of Solace in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I got to finish this album. I got to finish it. I had the idea of releasing a triple album.
Oh wow.
Okay, so I had like these huge plans for this album, and but I couldn't. But I thought about it, and I'm like, I can't do 34 songs. Let's just do 24. Let's focus on the best 24 songs off of this giant group of songs I wrote. And that's what I did. I focused on those 24, picked the 24. So I spent from May 2014 all the way up until maybe, I think I got it mastered in February, I think, or March. All the way up to then, just finalizing those songs. So yeah, it was a long process.
So I have to ask, if someone told you, if you 20 years ago were looking forward, would you ever have seen yourself here now doing this?
No.
No?
Not for Bellydance per se, but something involved in the music,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going, for me to say, like, to continue to focus on Bellydance, that's, I have my fans in that
Mm-hmm.
market. At the same time, I see myself going even beyond that and doing more different types of music and music that's not so Bellydance oriented. But I just love the ethnic, the ability to combine electronica with the organic and the ethnic theme.
Well, I mean, people who don't dance can appreciate the music very much as well. I mean, that's, so that's a nice thing about music is you don't have to dance to it. You can just listen to it.
Yeah, and
it's only some of us that have to dance
well,
to it.
I would hope that it's listenable, that you can just listen to it too,
is.
and that's the
Absolutely.
idea, is to make an overall product that
Mm-hmm.
can just be danced to or listened to,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in a restaurant, but
Well, there's all kinds of moods of music. There's a place for everything.
Mhm.
So it has been wonderful talking to you. We look
Yes.
forward to your next project. Keep us posted.
I will keep you posted on
And
Facebook.
all right, so look him up on Facebook if you want to find out if that stuff's being released. So I thank you so much for your time. It's been really lovely to actually meet the man behind the music
thank
here
you.
that I've been listening to. So everybody, do go ahead and look up Jeremiah. Do you have some Twitter links or any other things you want to give out?
I have Facebook. I can't even. It's like Sounds of Solace, I think. But just put in Jeremiah M. Soto, and then I'll pop up, and you'll see me there. And I'm revamping my website,
Mm-hmm.
so that's going to be all updated. It's going to be fresh and fancy free.
So let Google guide you in the direction.
That's right.
Google
That's
will
right.
do the magic.
That's right.
All right, so that is what we have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed that. Go take a look at Jeremiah's site, listen to some of his music if you're not familiar with it already, and I will see you next time. If you are not familiar with the other days of the Daily Bellydance Quickies, which are usually much shorter than this was a very special thing, take a look in the box down there and check it out and subscribe for free, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.